The leaked details for the Friday, February 20th episode of Beyond the Gates focus on Joey witnessing Haley and Randy growing visibly flustered in front of Bill. Meanwhile, Chelsea remains anxious about what could happen if Madison postpones her dream job. Key takeaways to remember. Joey watches the pressure mount. Haley and Randy grow restless and on edge as Bill gets closer to the truth about the snatching. Chelsea questions Madison's sacrifice. Fear intensifies that delaying a dream opportunity could damage their future. Anita's privacy is threatened. Anastasia's rumors push Anita's fight against illness further into the public spotlight. Bill isn't used to feeling powerless. But in recent weeks, the police department's silence has felt like a cold slap to the pride he has carried throughout a career as an attorney who believed he could bend the world with law and reason. The case file on the robbery of his wife keeps coming back with lifeless phrases. No suspects, no leads, broken security cameras, witnesses who can't remember. Every time he hears those explanations, Bill feels the truth more sharply that he is being pushed out of the case of his own life, as if his pain is nothing more than a number in a crime statistic. He begins to suspect not that the perpetrator is exceptionally brilliant, but that someone is deliberately muddying the water, twisting statements, warping time and truth into something unrecognizable. The city's police, long irritated by the lawsuits he once pursued to expose abuse of power, have suddenly become a frigid wall, useless, resentful, and unmoved. In that simmering anger, Bill calls Joey, and his voice on the line no longer sounds like courtroom language but like a dry command. Find the person who robbed my wife. It sounds, on the surface, like a request. Underneath, it is a handshake with darkness the moment a lawyer who lives by the law is forced to accept that sometimes justice arrives through roads that do not exist in any statute book. Bill knows Joey can dig up what the police overlook or what they choose to overlook. He also knows this will put him in debt, and a debt to someone like Joey is not something you repay with a few thank yous. But the terror of losing the woman he believes was attacked in the night dragged along the sidewalk, stripped of her sense of safety just beyond his reach, makes everything else secondary. He wants a name, a face, a target he can pour all the rage crushing his chest into, and Joey becomes the perfect instrument for that need. Joey takes the call with the calm of someone long accustomed to dirty-handed favors from people who speak loudly about morals and justice in daylight. He understands exactly how valuable it is to make a man like Bill owe him. It is not just a key into a world of power, but a ticket back into circles that once pushed him out. But Joey isn't naive. He knows cases like this are rarely only about a nameless street thief. Behind every fuzzy statement, every missing detail, there is often a hand arranging the scene, and he needs someone close to the heart of the chaos to sniff out what Bill won't say or can't bear to face. That is why Joey calls Randy. He knows Randy has a connection to Haley, the woman Bill refers to with the possessive weight of my wife, yet who has also become the center of a story that, to Joey, increasingly smells staged. Randy enters this not just as an assistant, but as a thermometer measuring how high the lies are rising inside that powerful family. Joey simply doesn't expect that the moment the robbery is mentioned, Randy's gaze will twitch toward the shadows like someone who has just been caught under a spotlight aimed at a corner of memory he has spent years trying to hide. Randy knows the thief. In fact, if you dig deeper, you could say he is the one who opened the door for that so-called snatching to happen. Information about the time Haley left the house that day, the route she took, her habit of skipping security when she wanted to prove she was afraid of nothing in the most secure gated community. Those are things not everyone would know. At first, Randy believes he is arranging only a small warning, a harsh lesson meant to wake up a relative too sheltered from the real world. To make Haley understand that not everyone lives behind Fairmont Crest's glittering glass walls. But the situation slips past his control. The man he hires to scare Haley, a thug with a history among loan sharks, turns greedier than the deal. A quick grab becomes a struggle. The bruising that was supposed to be minor becomes a genuine psychological wound, leaving behind panic in Haley's body and her eyes. Worse, Randy miscalculates one key detail. Bill will see his wife dragged from the car, will arrive a few seconds too late, and will carry the lifelong guilt of not protecting her. A stupid intimidation tactic has now become a sin without a clean name. When the police question him, Randy lies. He claims he only heard the story from Haley, that he has nothing to add. He also knows there is an officer on the force who still owes Joey an old favor, and that the case going nowhere is not just because of missing evidence, but because someone has quietly tagged it as low priority. Randy thinks time will bury it. Joey's call shatters that illusion. On Friday, when the four of them enter the same room, the air seems to congeal under layers of secrets stacked one on top of another. Bill stands there like carved stone, forcing the composed calm of a man trained to control emotion in front of a jury, while inside him the waves are violent. Every look he gives Haley contains both the urge to protect and a thin thread of suspicion, fine as hair, sharp as a blade. He remembers her first statement, the tiny details, street name, timing, the direction the thief ran. He also remembers the later retellings, the shifting breath, the rearranged details, as if memory is being kneaded into a new shape or as if Haley is kneading it to match a story already prepared. Haley, meanwhile, stands in the room wearing a role she has learned well, the victim who needs protection, the woman who suffered shock and is trying to return to normal life. But beneath bruises that have faded from her skin is the rigid tension of someone who knows she is walking on thin ice, where every sentence can become evidence and every glance can expose a clue. She is terrified Bill will discover another truth, too, that the night of the attack, she wasn't simply meeting a client, she was tangled in a murky legal transaction involving Lynette, something that, if exposed, could drag both spouses and several others into a legal storm. Randy can barely meet Bill's eyes. Each time he catches that man's cold, cutting stare, he imagines himself torn apart on the witness stand, forced to explain why he lied about a crime victim, why he turned a grieving husband into a fool. He also can't look at Haley for long, because between them lies a hidden family bond Bill knows nothing about. They are cousins, linked by a past Haley has tried to bury, years in a neighborhood where violence and desperation were the only language, where wrong choices were less about cruelty than about having no better choices at all. Haley escaped, stepped into Bill's world of tailored suits and polished courtrooms, but Randy remained trapped between both worlds, grateful for the time she helped him settle debts, yet indebted to her for dragging her past back into the present through this stupid warning. He knows that if Bill ever hears the word family between them, the next question will be brutal. So you coordinated your stories in advance, didn't you? The truth would be pulled back like a rug, exposing nothing but rot underneath. Joey stands slightly behind them, watching the other three like a director who is also the audience to the play he helped stage. He knows he is holding something more valuable than money, an unspoken truth. Every movement Randy makes reeks of guilt. Every blink from Haley is a desperate attempt to control the narrative. And Bill, armed with all a lawyer's logic, stands on the fragile border between trust and doubt. Joey thinks about the debt Bill has just offered, about the ticket back into the world of power he once lost because of a past mistake. But he also thinks about whether he can use that debt to reclaim something else, a seat, influence, a hand in decisions he was never allowed to touch. To do that, he must remain the only man capable of solving the problem, which means ensuring the truth never fully surfaces, only leaks in carefully measured doses. Just enough for everyone in the room to understand that if they don't follow him, everything collapses. In that string-tight moment, one wrong sentence, one misremembered time, one mistaken name could detonate the entire situation. Joey can almost taste blood in the air even though no one has bled yet, because relationships in Fairmont Crest once cracked tend to shatter, in ways no one can predict. Elsewhere in this suffocating community, Chelsea is facing a different kind of chaos, no less brutal, just quieter. She sits in front of her computer, staring again and again at the Copenhagen Research Scholarship letter Madison once printed and slipped into a drawer, as if hiding a dream could make it hurt less. Copenhagen isn't just a job opportunity for Madison. It is a piece of her professional identity, something she has built with years of work. Chelsea understands that better than anyone. And that is precisely why, when Madison says she is willing to give it all up to stay, to marry, to build a family, Chelsea doesn't feel pure happiness so much as a vague, creeping fear. She has watched another relationship break for the same reason when a woman abandoned her career for love, only to be blamed years later by the very man she sacrificed for. As if her devotion had never been requested, only resented like a burden. Chelsea is terrified she will become the name thrown into future arguments as the person who held Madison back, the obstacle, the one who made Madison lose what she once dreamed of. Madison, on the other hand, believes she is doing the right thing. Or at least, she tries to convince herself she is. She tells Chelsea again and again that marriage and family can be dreams too, that those dreams aren't lesser than research articles published in international journals. Yet every time Copenhagen comes up, Madison's eyes drift away without meaning to, as if an invisible cord still ties her to that distant city, a promise to a mentor, an unfinished project, or worse, a professional secret she cannot leave behind until she has cleaned it up. Madison is also under pressure from her family people who don't believe a same-sex relationship can endure in a world still heavy with judgment, and they view that scholarship as a prestigious exit route. Between those opposing forces, Madison chooses to stay, but the choice isn't born of total freedom. It is the product of painful compromise with herself. Chelsea senses those contradictions even when Madison doesn't say them out loud. Her fear isn't only that Madison will regret it. It's that one day, when another opportunity appears, Madison will change her mind and return to the road she forced herself to abandon. Then today's promises will turn into accusations. If you truly loved me, why didn't you let me go? In that anxiety, Chelsea begins to crave something concrete, proof beyond reassurance. A life plan with clear dates, a lease, a marriage license. Anything that makes this relationship look like a solid decision instead of a temporary pause before the storm. But the more she searches for guarantees, the more she pushes herself into the role of the skeptic, the person who always demands that love be proven. And if Madison suddenly receives the scholarship again or an equally dazzling offer, Chelsea isn't sure how she will respond, support her wholeheartedly to prove she isn't selfish, or feel betrayed so deeply that she doubts every word Madison ever said about wanting a family. That is the trap. No matter how she reacts, the relationship will change color, and the original innocence will never fully return. While private battles simmer behind closed doors, Fairmont Crest Country Club becomes a public stage for a different kind of chaos, open conflict between social forces, where the title Platinum Deb is not merely a sash on an evening gown, but a passport into the world of power. Vanessa observes it all with the eyes of someone who understands the rules perfectly. Nicole and Samantha's awkward situation might look, on the surface, like a simple problem of finding the right escort for a debutante event. Underneath, it is about which family stands beside which family in the commemorative photo, which bloodline gets stitched to which in the whispers over tea. Vanessa offers a solution, but in her mind it is an opportunity to plant a new chess piece where she wants it, ensuring that when those photos are framed and displayed, her name is attached to a social victory, not a public mishap. She doesn't help out of pure kindness, she helps because every time she fixes someone else's mess, she ties another invisible thread of obligation around their wrist. Anastasia makes no attempt to hide her ambition. For her, the Platinum Deb title for her granddaughter is not a fleeting honor but a silken curtain meant to cover the stains in the family history, secrets that, if exposed, would change how people look at them forever. She is willing to use violence if it secures the prize. And the violence here isn't only physical shoves backstage, bruises in hallways, but the violence of words, rumors, perfectly timed barbs launched to crack an opponent's image in half. Her granddaughter, if asked directly, might not even fully understand the meaning of the title, might not truly want to be the center of a carefully engineered debut. But in Anastasia's hands, she is a beautiful piece on the board, dressed, polished, smiling on cue, bowing on direction. Anastasia designs the strategy, decides who belongs inside the circle and who gets branded not suitable. And within that strategy, Anita becomes a convenient target. Anita has endured too much in too short a time. She needs peace, but peace is a luxury at Fairmont Crest, where every private story can be dragged into daylight if it gives someone else an advantage. Her confrontation with Leslie at the country club on Thursday proves that. Leslie appears at the exact worst moment, when Anita is most vulnerable, as though someone deliberately pulled her into place. Leslie's words aren't ordinary insults. They strike the deepest fears inside Anita: weakness, loss of control, the terror of being seen as a burden by her family and her community. Under that pressure, Anita can't maintain the cool poise she has worn for years like armor. Pent-up emotion, physical exhaustion from illness, and social stress blend into a dizzy wave that nearly drops her to the floor in front of everyone. When Anita staggers, every eye swings toward her. In that crowd, Anastasia watches with a different kind of attention. To her, every public incident is an opportunity to reshuffle the board. If Anita's health can be questioned, her status on committees, in charities, and in the local power network can be weakened. The rumors Anastasia releases the next day are not impulsive, they are strategic, meant to steer public perception. If enough people begin whispering that Anita is no longer strong enough to lead, then legal decisions, assets, and positions within trust funds can be shoved back onto the table for renegotiation. Anita is forced to consider revealing her cancer diagnosis, not because she wants sympathy, but because if she doesn't speak first, someone else will seize the narrative and weaponize it against her. Once her health becomes gossip, it is no longer private. It becomes a card in a power game she is not ready to play but cannot refuse. The question haunting Anita is simple and poisonous. Who benefits most from her collapse? Leslie, with her bitterness, may be nothing more than an unconscious tool. A rival family long resentful of Anita's influence might be smiling in the dark. Anastasia, by stoking the rumor mill, is clearly using Anita's illness as an excuse to elevate her granddaughter's position. And Anita, backed into a corner, must decide whether to stay silent to protect the last scraps of pride she has left, or to stand up and seize control of the story by telling the truth. Accepting that her illness will become a topic on the tongues of people who once considered her a symbol of strength. Every option carries humiliation in its own way, and that is what makes the fury inside her burn hotter. Through all these tangled threads, Fairmont Crest begins to feel like a luxurious glass cage, beautiful, gleaming, and suffocating, where everyone is hiding a secret that could destroy them if exposed. Bill is searching for the man who robbed his wife, but what he may find is another mask inside a marriage he believed he understood. Joey is calculating each step toward reclaiming his place in the world of power, but one misstep while playing with fire could burn him alongside the people he is exploiting. Randy teeters between guilt and survival, and the harder he hides, the deeper he sinks. Haley stands on the line between victim and manipulator, her inner life split by terror of losing everything if the truth emerges. Chelsea and Madison circle the same equation: love versus ambition, where any decision can become the seed of resentment later. Vanessa, Anastasia, Anita, Nicole, Samantha each occupies a different position in this ecosystem of influence, yet each is being pressured to strike before someone strikes them first. And as the invisible links between these stories begin to touch, it will take only one small mistake, a misplaced word in that four-person room, an email from Copenhagen discovered. A medical report leaked for all of Fairmont Crest to shudder under an earthquake no one can control.